Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice, right here at selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest is Kimberly Jackson, who is very, very dedicated to helping women at the crossroads of pregnancy. She says at the Crossroads Pregnancy Centre, the heart of the story is the unwavering commitment to women and families in our beautiful city, Nanaimo, BC, Canada. But this, what we're going to be sharing here today is across the board. So even though they are centered here, she says they exist to fill a crucial gap in the system of offering free, confidential, and compassionate support during some of life's most vulnerable moments. In a world that often presents complex challenges around pregnancy, or progress approaches ensure every individual feels valued, heard, and empowered to make informed decisions. We're here because every woman deserves to navigate her unique journey, they say, whether facing an unexpected pregnancy, experiencing the profound grief of loss, or entering early parenthood with comprehensive emotional and practical support, fostering resilience and hope in their community. Kimberly's career began in the medical field, driven by the deep desire to help people, particularly from a supportive and administrative perspective. She thrived behind the scenes, ensuring that teams who worked face-to-face with patients and had everything they needed. During that decade, raising two children shifted her focus. She sought a career out that allowed her to contribute meaningful to the community while offering flexibility to more presence for her own family. This led her to be a corporate medical world of nonprofit sector. And in 2023, she joined Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Vancouver Island, an organization that beautifully prioritizes families, which should be the case everywhere. Both those and the staff, they serve people who are in need. The role allows her the freedom to integrate her work with family needs, creating powerful motivation to excel in that role and served the greater good. In 2025, the board of Crossroads Pregnancy Centre approached with the executive director opportunity. This felt perfect, rooted, next step, allowing me to fully dedicate my passion into the organization that profoundly impacts the well-being of women and families. And she says it's an honor to lead in the CPC, filling a massive systemic gap. And she's incredibly excited about this new chapter. And why wouldn't you be? Getting pregnant is exciting, right? If it's planned, and if you know that you've got support and you've got everything and all the ducks in the row. Very often, and that has been the case with me, it's like pregnancy, not designed. What do I do now? Or also in the case of me, losing a child in pregnancy and wondering if you'll ever be able to have a pregnancy again. Unless you really are a woman, and men can feel it in a different way, but unless you are really a woman, you don't know what we go through when we have a loss like that, or when we're faced with a choice. Because this isn't just, having a baby, get on with your life. This is a lifer. This is somebody reliant on you forevermore. So it seems. It is a very big decision to have a child. And then if you throw in health challenges, support challenges, everything else, it can be so utterly overwhelming. And I don't think there's enough emphasis. There's a lot of emphasis around in pregnancy and having the baby, but not about those crossroads. Do I have, don't I have? What happens if I do have, or I've lost one? Does that mean, can I have down the road? All of those questions that go through our head, and they can spin around, can't they, Kimberly?
Absolutely, yes.
So obviously having a family and being in the medical world, what is it about this in particular decided that this is the route I want to go? And what did you see in there that you felt that needed to be addressed?
Well, I felt so drawn to this organization for quite a few years, and I've been a supporter of them since before I came on staff. Just in this area of uh, just women's support that is a massive gap. There isn't really another organization or really industry supporting women in this way. And as a woman who is a mother, um,
Mm,
I do have for me to get through those early years through pregnancy and early years. And a lot of women don't have that same family
mm.
support. And so having an organization full of incredibly warm and loving, dedicated volunteers and staff members can just create
Sorry, we're
that
having a bit of
support circle around them, and it just feels very important. Oh, sorry, yeah, so it just feels very important, and I want to be a part of that. Sure.
Sorry, folks, we had a little internet interrupt just there, and hopefully it's all going to be smooth sailing from here. Um, yeah, you admire the organization and the work that they do. And I think that's the journey in any career in life, right? You start off with kind of the first intent, and then experience has you go down a different way. And then you see somebody or an organization that's doing something that you go, God, they're really making an impact, and I'd like to be a part of that. And that's really what, I say inspiration begets invitation. And when you're inspired by somebody, the invitation is there. And that's across the board in anything in life. But, you admired the work that they do. Um, but it's hard work. I mean, especially for the people on the front lines there, dealing with people that are going through a trauma in its own self. Do I or
Mm-hmm.
don't I? Okay, should I have the
Yeah.
baby or I've lost the baby? Can I have another baby? What am I going to do with this baby? There's an awful lot of a lot of deep breathing having to go on. So
Yeah.
it's a hard position to be on the front. And if the front lines don't have the back line support,
Yes.
they can fall to pieces very, very easily. And so you're the kind of that support.
That's what we aim to be. Absolutely. Yeah. And just we find, the feedback we get from a lot of our clients is that their doctors don't have the time to
Yeah,
just talk through these
I still
things
have.
with them, explain fully. I mean, they're at the most, and that's not their fault. That's the
No.
system. And these doctors, I think, would love to provide more personalized care, especially when a woman is in crisis.
Hmm.
But their hands are very tied, and so we find women in pregnancy or in loss are just left looking for something else, something more time. They just need someone's time and someone's ear to listen. And sometimes they need information, but sometimes it's just somebody who can sit and listen
Hmm.
and be beside you. We call it companioning, a model of care where
Hmm.
you're with them while they work through very complex feelings and emotions.
Hmm. I like that, companioning, because anytime you face with a trauma, you need to sound it out. And what you don't need is
Mm-hmm.
judgment. You just need somebody who's there. I'm there. I'm there. How
Absolutely.
do you feel?
Yeah.
I'm there. Once they kind of have finished spilling it out and say, okay, I hear that. Now, let's look at what we can do first. What's the first step? Well, the first step is actually the download of how they feel, right? And they don't realize that's already a big step because they're actually sharing their concerns, their fear. Once you
Yes.
know what that is, and now you know what to address. Okay, this is what we're going to address first. Because
Mm-hmm.
the anytime in any length, it's the overwhelm. You cannot think clearly. You cannot make decisions clearly if you're overwhelmed. And
Mm-hmm.
being able to kind of get out, and then if somebody say, okay, deep breath, let's have a look at it from this angle and what we can do first. Now the clarity can start coming in, but it can't when you're in when that overwhelm is so consuming.
Absolutely. And we do find it's very much a process. And some clients just choose to continue coming regularly and seeing us because sometimes you need a whole moment, a whole session just to have that,
Hmm.
unloading.
Yes.
And then we try and build a little bit of relationship. So there's comfort level there with
Mm.
the staff or the volunteer that you're working with. And then you build trust and you can share, and there's a lot of different things we can do depending on the situation. We can work through set programs designed to bring healing if that's what they need, or we can help them go through all of the pregnancy options in a very factual way, but with softness and understanding of all of the emotion behind that.
Yeah. Because sometimes, somebody has to say, I am on my own. I told my partner and off they went, which happens a
Mm-hmm.
great deal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not in the position to raise a child. And as much as I don't want to have to look at abortion, I have to. Because if I can't, and let's face it, we have an awful lot of people who go, abortion is evil. But what about leaving a mother abandoned to raise a child when she hasn't got the money to do so or the support system? Right? And don't say, well, she shouldn't have got pregnant in the first place. It takes two, right?
Yes,
It
and
takes
and
two.
everything happen. Anything can happen.
Yes.
There's no that's a position that we feel very strongly about, is that we're not going to judge women on any of their circumstances,
Right.
because none of us are above any difficult
Mm.
circumstances. Like it can only take one very small, what seems inconsequential choice to have a lasting effect on your life, and we've all made those small inconsequential choices that
Hmm.
it may be not related to pregnancy, but we've all made decisions like
Yes.
that have had ripple effects in our lives. And
Sorry if it's having a bad internet.
what do I remember in those situations in my life? It's the grace, the grace that I received from others, and the non-judgment
Yes.
is what I remember in those moments.
Yeah.
The, um, it's not necessarily the decisions themselves. So yeah, so we aim very much to not um, judge anyone in any
Right.
circumstances. None of us are above that.
Exactly. And who are we to judge? Because we have no idea what, we haven't walked in that person's shoes. And, this show is called Your Health is Your Choice. And sometimes we may go and do things that aren't very healthy for us one way or the other. And, but it is about empowering what you can do with that. Because, let's face it, for most people, that first trimester is just nauseating. And you're dealing physically with creating this child inside of you, and you literally feel sick all the time. And now you're meant to think
Mm-hmm.
straight and have planning or anything else when you just want to, feel like you want to die.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's so many physical changes, and the physical really can affect the
Yes.
emotional and the mental. So, yes, it's very important to take all of that into account when supporting women in these situations as well.
Sometimes it's let's put everything else aside, let's get through this. Just let's
Mm-hmm.
get through this. Again, how can they think about or make decisions if they're just feeling so nauseous? My daughter's just had her third baby. With each one of them, she had bad morning sickness, but this one was really bad. Like she was curled up,
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know what to do. And whatever they tried, finally she found a medication that, stopped it. But she had to go through a few of them to get there. Now she's got an extremely supportive husband and she has me right there. But we can't help her through this. We can't
Yeah.
take it off her hands or anything like that. And it's like she's trying to work. She's got two other children and just feels totally nauseous. So we need to understand that when somebody's going through something, um, don't ever tell them to suck it up. Right?
Absolutely. I can
Please.
so relate to your daughter's experience. I had very similar, and yeah, like I was so fortunate to have my maternity doctor be passionate about what she does. And in that small window of time that, you get with your doctor, that she poured as much care into that as she could, and like, okay, you are incredibly unwell. How can we make this better? And took that time to like you said, I have a support system just like your daughter, but I needed, more than just
Yes.
that. You need that. And so then when you have those in the professional space, people coming and being like, hey, your experience is valid and how you
Mm,
feel is
mm,
important to me. So let's let's work on this. And, similar to your daughter, we had to try a few different things and landed on somewhere where, I think it wasn't great, but I could get by, and,
Exactly.
but it's hard. Pregnancy is hard.
You're making a life.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most complex manufacturing ever going on. It's actually organic life. And
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we forget that. It's like, oh, just take a pill and go back to work, or we make women feel guilty for the fatigue or the
Yeah.
nausea and everything else. And it's like, we need to understand this is a creation of life that's going on inside of her. And we need to honor that. And sometimes she just simply needs rest or support or the right medication. But she doesn't need to be worrying about everything else. Certainly a choice of what am I going to do when the baby's born?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is some women just need somebody in their corner empowering them. Like you get to make these decisions. You get to go back to your doctor and tell them, I need more. I need a solution for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your pregnancy and you get to be the one to make those decisions. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you need somebody in your corner who can remind you, like, oh no, if you feel brushed off, let's go back. Let's continue. Let's be persistent because you get to be in charge of this.
And you can't be in charge, coherently if you're in distress. And this is why
Mm-hmm.
you need somebody that A is the sounding board, that has the knowledge that you don't have.
Mm.
That tells you, no, it's okay to feel like this. These are the steps that we can take, because half the time is I don't know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that powerlessness of I don't know what to do. There's this life that I'm bringing into the world. I'm feeling absolutely awful. I don't, everything is unknown. And when you're in the unknown, that's when helplessness and despair steps in, because when you know, you're more empowered to make
That's
those
right.
choices, right? But
That's
if you
right.
don't know, then you're just feeling you're flapping in the wind and you can get blown away anytime.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it can be hard to navigate, the information that's out there. It can be
Yeah.
very overwhelming. We have, in a time in 2025, and that's overwhelming. And that is really hard to sort of filter through and find the information that's helpful to you that you
Hmm.
need. And so what we try and do is we already have that we have disseminated all of that information,
Hmm.
and we can present that in small bite-sized pieces to not
Yeah.
overwhelm people. If
Yes.
they're even just the preparing for a birth, there's so many things like everything to do with labor and delivery and then breastfeeding and all of this, or whatever your choices are, if you're breastfeeding, if you're bottle feeding, all like, or how to even choose what you want to do in those
Yeah.
regards. It's a lot, and we can just slowly walk through each of those steps with someone, if she's just needing the information and not sure where to go. So
And this could be a second or third or whatever pregnancy, and no pregnancy is the same,
mm-hmm.
right? And
Yes.
for my daughter, it was 48 hours with the first one. His head was bent, and so he was
Mm.
having time coming out. Third one was a C-section. They broke the femur, bringing him out, and uh,
Mm.
and the third one, she said, no, they kept saying, oh, but the first one was 48 hours. I said, this is the third one. It's going to come quickly. So basically, from midnight to 5:30 in the morning, that's all it took. And he is actually born in his sack, which was
Wow.
which was quite incredible. So she's really had some things that never happened to people happen to us.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
And there's only so much that, um,
you can
you
prepare for.
know, exactly. So I try and, just if I can offer advice to women who are approaching that, um, labor and delivery stage of their pregnancy, it's good to have, ideas of what is important to you in
Yes,
this experience. But it is also important not to be married to certain ideas and
yes,
plans. And, I think the birth plan is something we can get very wrapped up in because you want this idyllic labor and delivery experience. And in my personal experience, nothing went that way. And the one thing that made it still a very positive experience was just that I went in there being open to whatever happens, happens. If I
Right.
need medication, we take medication. If we're doing great without it, if you're open to like the goal is a healthy child and healthy mom, then being open to any sort of method or intervention that gets you both to the the finish line healthy,
Yes.
that's just going to bring you peace, and it's
Accept it.
going to,
And don't feel guilty about it. A lot of people, oh no, no, I want to have a
yeah.
natural birth. And the third one was a natural because it was fast and furious, right?
Well, all birth is
No intervention
natural,
at all.
and yeah,
Yes,
all
but
birth is
in the sense
natural.
of no assistance in
Yeah.
medication or anything. She tried to do that the first time, but they
Mm-hmm.
with him being so big and everything else, eventually they had to intervene. And the thing
Yeah.
is that we can go in with a desire, and but we must listen to the doctors and the nurses when they say stress point, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is now beyond your control. We need to
Yeah.
step in because baby's in stress, you're in stress, and this isn't ideal. So that's when
Yeah.
we need to trust and hand over ourselves and say, help me. So we can, everybody ideals, oh, I'm going to go in and a couple of little labor pains and out will come. Hallelujah. There are some people that cough it out, and that's extremely rare. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that it's pain for a reason, and always the moment that child is put into your arms you forget every bit of pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that child immediately is everything that and more. But again, if somebody is having a child that was not wanted by somebody, or you don't know how you're going to support that child, it can be, you're looking at the child, the authority is there, etc., but then it comes into the fear, now what? Right?
Yeah.
Now what? And it's like, even after birth, we still need to be there for them while they're navigating, because being a mother, especially for the first time, right? As you said, whether it's breastfeeding or bottle feeding or having to do both, you're not getting any sleep. How do you
Mm-hmm.
recognize signs of stress or just a baby wanting more food or snuggling? Right, because this little third grandson is a snuggler. He just wants to be on mama's chest
Oh,
24/7.
that's lovely. I mean, that when you have two other children, it's a
It makes it
challenge, but
harder.
oh,
Dad's on mat leave with him too, and I'm there 2 or 3 days a week.
that's so lovely.
Um,
Yeah,
so
it's very important to have that support after the birth as well.
mm,
We provide a lot of care for women who are undecided on what to do for their pregnancy, on women who are going through pregnancy, but we still follow families until their children turn 2 years old as
wow,
well, so that
that's
we can
great.
be there emotionally, but practically with
Mm,
resources.
mm.
And, our resources are all dependent on donations, but we do everything we can with those
And
resources that we get
that's really, really
to just
important that people.
support families in our community.
Sorry, we're still having a little internet connection here, so disconnection. That's like what people need to understand is that you do it by donation, and a lot of the time people look at this is going on and that's going on, etc., etc., and it's like I'd like to donate, but I just don't know what to donate to. There's so much out there, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you've given birth, or if you know how hard it is to raise a child up to that 2 years age, or somebody that's had a hard decision to make, then the support that what you're doing is to support not only the mother but the child, but it's also supporting the future, because the more at home a mother is, the more she is supported, especially in those first 2 years, the more likely there's going to be a more equilibriumed child out there, because the mother felt supported, that support gets passed on. If we leave them out there, then they kind of, that disruptiveness and that insecurity goes with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important um, to be giving that support for, like you say, that equilibrium and that balance that it can bring to
Mhm.
a family's life and how they can support their children. And, our goal also is to equip families on where to find resources in the community as well,
Yeah.
because not only are we um, helping them, but helping them until two in the early years, that feels like a long time, two
Yes.
years, but in the grand scheme of raising a child, it's a blip. And
Yes.
if somebody is fully dependent on our center and the resources we have, and then all of a sudden it's just that support
Mm,
has concluded, I think we would be doing them a disservice. So
yeah.
we work on in that time period of equipping them in, with outside resources or pointing them towards affordable clothing for their families and where you can
Mm,
find that in the community and other resources for food and just that emotional support, play groups and different things like that where they can meet other women and start to build their community around them that they might have come to us because of a lack of, that we can help them into that next stage of life.
because when you help somebody in their dire distress or where feel most vulnerable, and you've shown that support and you've given them that strength, they're going to pass it on one way or the other, whether they've now become that inspiration and the way they handle things, way they handle things in the future. I know that when I had my first child, I didn't have kind of a group around me. With my second child, I did. And I met today my best friend, which is 41 years later, right? And
Hmm.
just taking the baby up to get weighed. And then there'd be circle time of getting, mums getting to know each other and, sharing stories, this is happening. Oh, yeah, that happened. And I do this and I do that. And it's just that general support, we're all in this together. What do you do? What do you do? Let's set up a play date, and it's having that kind of group. Um, my daughter doesn't have that because it doesn't, since COVID it disappeared, but I just don't know if they're around anymore. I'm exceedingly grateful that I had it for my second and third child. My first child, and then I didn't find one. I actually didn't even know they existed. And it was only because it was up the road from me with my second child. And it was just nice to know I could meet other people where we could
Yeah.
all go, yeah, I'm exhausted, and share,
Yeah.
commiserate, right? And I think that's what we need is that you're giving them that head start. Now they need to find their mama tribe,
Yes,
right? And be
absolutely.
there
Yeah.
for each other. I would take her kids for the weekend, she'd take my kids for the weekend. And still to this
Mm-hmm.
day, the kids are best friends and being at each other's weddings as best man or bridesmaids or this or that, right? She's auntie, they're cousins by choice, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what kind of relationship or friendship you're going to build from that. But it's having those type of things accessible, which I think is really, really important, is make friends beyond the help you're giving so
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
support continues with the growth of the child.
That's the goal. Absolutely. Yeah. We want people to feel like they fit in, and like we mentioned earlier, when you have a support system, you're empowered to be, in control of your experience and
Mhm.
your health journey, your parenting journey, all of that. So yeah.
To a heavier subject now, which I don't know if you ever come across, but there are people that unfortunately get uh, pregnant through rape, and they just obviously don't want to have the child because of the way it came about, and you've got some faiths that disagree with that. You now got to carry this child. I don't know if you come across that, but that I think is a triple whammy on a woman, and it's like you're not just it's not just the trauma of now I'm pregnant, what do I
Hmm.
do, but the violation of what's happened to them in the first place. And it's like, does your groups help people in that situation?
Yeah. So is it okay if we pause for 1 minute, Sarah, that I can try and see if we can.
Okay, folks, we've decided to beat the internet and she's gone to her phone instead of computer. But this was a very poignant and heavy question about, people who get pregnant through rape. It's, oh, I don't wish it on anyone, but it's a totally different approach, isn't it?
It is, and I'll sort of explain the process that we would go through in support of a woman in a situation like this. Um, our options support program that we have is very much intended to help a woman get to her own conclusions. We
Mm-hmm.
really begin with reinforcing that it is her choice what happens, but that's very weighty and that puts a lot of pressure on women. So
Mm-hmm.
we also will go through all of the options with her permission. So a very permission based. And like you said, this is trauma has such a huge part
Mm-hmm.
when someone's in crisis. And we're very sensitive to be taking a trauma informed approach so that we are not adding to
Yeah.
that distress. So beginning with making sure that the woman that we're working with fully understands that it's her choice. That's important to us, that we know that she is understanding that, and she's not required to tell us what her choice may be.
Mm-hmm.
She can share that, but there's no obligation. That can be private to her if she
Mm-hmm.
wants. But we work through the different options, and a lot of self-reflecting questions like,
Mm-hmm.
you're in this position, what do you believe about
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy and about what your personal beliefs have to say about pregnancy or abortion and these issues, so that it can have someone thinking about, okay, what is my moral compass, what do I
Mm-hmm.
think now. We Whoever is working with this individual might have a different view on that, but
Mm-hmm.
that is part of our training, as well as selecting volunteers and staff, is those who can really put that aside, because it's not our decision and it's not our personal beliefs, so that we can support her
Where
through
they're
this
at.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
And also, our volunteers and staff are not clinical counselors,
Mm-hmm.
so in situations where there could have been rape, sexual assault involved, we do have community partners who are clinical
Mm-hmm.
counselors. That, of course, we are always encouraging women to have the medical care necessary if they haven't yet,
Mm-hmm.
but to be under the care of a doctor, as well as having that professional counseling as well, because all of this is required for healing and just for feeling safe.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the pregnancy itself, we just, in small pieces, just
Mm-hmm.
one step at a time, and we ask first, do you want to talk about fetal development? Do you want to talk about what that looks like? If they do, then we talk about it. If they don't, we don't. Do you want to talk about abortion? And if they do, then we, talk about the different types of abortion and what that might look like for her and what to expect, because that's feedback we get. A lot of women tell us the doctors are just like, here is,
Clinical. Mm-hmm.
it's clinical, and they
Yeah.
don't necessarily prepare you for the emotional response that you might have. So a lot of the women who come to us are coming to us post abortion because they need to process the emotions that they weren't expecting, because they
Yeah.
just weren't prepared for it, or that they went through it alone
Mm-hmm.
and they just feel so alone because of that. And it's just so important to have someone in your corner during any of these pregnancy related processes. But
But the thing is, you want them to make you feel safe. You're safe here.
absolutely, yes.
The other thing is, automatically a woman takes shame on it,
Yes.
right?
and
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 that's something
that's
that needs to definitely be addressed.
Yeah, and that's something that we don't really let into our support room, the
Mm,
shame.
yeah.
And women bring that with them, but we remind them that the shame it's not necessary, not
Mm,
here.
yes.
There
Yes.
could be other people putting that shame
On
on
them.
them, but
Mm,
if they have somebody reminding them that we're just going to deal with this one step at a time. There's no shame. We're
mm.
just going
No
to
shame,
help
no blame.
you,
Yeah.
because you're in the situation, and it doesn't matter how you got there.
Yeah.
If it was someone else's choice or your
Mm,
choice, you're there. And now we're going to help you.
exactly.
But there's so we also find some women need to work through, yeah, their own moral feelings about pregnancy decisions, and then we feel some that come in with immense outside pressure,
Yes.
and women who actually would like to have a pregnancy but have a lot of pressure from their partner to have an abortion, and that's where, that again, reminding them, like, this is your decision. And it's scary if they think, well, if I keep a child, my partner's going to leave, and knowing if that happens, you still have support from us. You have support with the financial side, and that will help with the resources, will help you with
Yeah.
food, and will help you with getting plugged in the community where you need it. So you can have both ends of the side where women are feeling pressured to keep their child because of maybe their family views, or the opposite, where they're being pressured to have an abortion. And
Right.
for us, you had mentioned at the beginning how our center takes a pro-grace standpoint,
Yes.
and that really, what that means is that we don't fall very firmly on that political spectrum.
Hmm.
We're not anti-choice, but we try and stay completely out of that.
Neutral.
Exactly, because if we stood very far on either end of the spectrum, we take 50% of our community that feels alienated or judged, and that we can't help them.
Exactly.
And that's not what we aim to do. Like, we really aim to just be there for every person, regardless of who they are, what they believe, where they've come from. They're welcome at Crossroads.
And quite honestly, politics and religion shouldn't be involved in this. This is between mother and whether to have the child or not, right? This is, can I provide? Do I want to provide? Do I want to do this alone? The
Mhm,
way I
mhm.
got pregnant, do I really want,
Yeah.
to have this? I do know somebody who um, was pressured into having a child after a rape, even to marry the rapist.
Oh, yeah.
And she resented it entire life and unfortunately put that resentment on her child. And so
Mm,
that developed problems as well. And so who are we doing a favor of here? Right. And
yeah.
so this is a tough decision because nobody wants to abort, it's mostly in our nature to want to have a child. And
Mhm.
but through such circumstances, would you always be looking at that child as what the father did? So, and then of course the other people bring up, yeah, well, you can put it up for adoption. Now you're asking a woman to go through the whole 9 months and everything and then give up that child where she's bonded with it from the inside out. And that is also a very tough one. So
It is
yeah,
tough.
it's got to be their choice, but you've got to support that choice along the way because
Mhm.
and it has to be their choice.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, there's no easy answer in this scenario. So it's just choosing. And like you'd said, politics and all that, it doesn't belong in that space. However, it is very much a part of it. Like our
Yes.
our moral compass is informed by what we believe, and our political stance, and our faith or religion, if you have a faith, that kind of informs what we believe.
Yeah.
And so even though it can be difficult, it's very much a part of it. And so that's why we feel so strongly of staying neutral and not
Yes.
letting each of our individual personal beliefs have any influence, because
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
not our pregnancy.
No, no.
It's not our choice, but our role is to support in the way that she is needing it. And that's what we call it, a client-led model, where we let them take the lead. And that's also very important in that empowering women to have a say
Yeah.
over what happens for them, because that's, in our society, unfortunately, women don't get a lot of autonomy with our
No.
our bodies and our medical care. There's a lot of things that happen to every single woman that we don't really know about,
Right.
because it's maybe recently we've started to learn a little bit, but like, things to do with pregnancy and menopause and all of that
Yeah.
women haven't been a priority in the medical system. So the only way that that's going to continue to improve is when we are standing up for our
Exactly.
own needs. And we can't do that without, a whole crew of women behind us
Exactly.
encouraging us to do that.
We've got to normalize it. I mean, God, there
Hmm.
isn't one person in this world that, no test tubes out there. They all came from a woman,
Hmm.
right? And so if we cannot respect what a woman goes through in order to bring you into the world, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's just the start of it. Never mind all the raising and the gray hairs they give you and everything
Hmm.
else, right?
Yes.
And if we can't respect that, then we don't respect life in itself. And I think that this it's we're not a manufacturing plant.
Mm.
And if we don't have the compassion and the emotion and the connection to having and to raising our children, then what's the point of humanity in the first place? We don't want robotics, thank you. I know AI
Hmm.
is here, but yeah, and I know they've made an AI puppy, and they'll probably have AI babies somewhere along the line.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
until that happens, we do it organically,
Hmm.
and we deliver them, right? So, we need to respect that, because I don't think it has been something that's been respected for so long. Only those that go through it, that are dedicated to it, that truly understand what a woman goes through.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, there's another side of it, like I'll speak to my case because I can relate to that, is that I ended up having an ectopic pregnancy,
Mm.
and it was overlooked. I was even told in the doctor it was in my head
Mm.
until I ended up in hospital, and and the tube had become infected and everything else, and eventually lost an ovary and a tube. And they told
Mhm.
me that I'll never have a kid. I'll never
Mm.
get pregnant, too much damage. And they thought the womb was damaged as well. And I was a person that wanted to be a mother from child. I never outgrew that. Motherhood was very important to me. I went on to have 4 more pregnancies and 3 children. So there you
Yes.
go, right? When there's a will, there is a way, because I've got another tube and ovary on the other side, right?
Yes.
But, yeah, clinically, oh no, too damaged, you won't have kids. And we've got to understand as medical professionals that you cannot do that. You can say, look, it may be more difficult. You may have challenges. We're up for the challenge, but don't carte blanche it that never will have. And so you have people that miscarry for some reason, or have the ectopic pregnancy, or have been given that diagnosis you will never have. And that,
Hmm.
for somebody who's trying, I always get the letters wrong. People are having the insemination.
IVF.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
and then it doesn't work. This is just as traumatic, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I really want to have a kid. We've been trying for years, or I had a ectopic pregnancy, or I had a miscarriage. I've had a miscarriage and an ectopic. And it's like it's got a different form of trauma, and we need to be there for women during this time period.
Yes, we do. And, IVF is a technology that has enabled so many families to become
Yeah.
families and to have children, but it is also associated with a lot of loss.
Yes.
And so that, pregnancy loss and infant loss is so, I mean, we just finished up October, which was Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And, just the fact that people are acknowledging those losses is huge,
Yeah.
because there's so much grief, and when nobody's talking about it,
Hmm.
women really do feel so alone. So the more we can talk about it and just empower women to have support, seek it out. We offer infant and pregnancy loss support in our center, and it could be a, a pregnancy that was lost so early, just maybe a few days or a few weeks into the pregnancy, or a late term, or
Hmm.
an infant loss.
Yeah.
All of that is grief. It is
Yes.
equal, and women need to have support systems that say, remind them, your baby existed. They were your child. You are a mom,
Yeah.
and just acknowledge that, and then help them work through the complexities of losing their child.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, because what you do get is like, oh, suck it up. You can always go and have another. Or if you can't have, well, you can always adopt. And
But
it's
maybe
like,
you can't,
and
maybe you
maybe you
can't.
can't, because
Yes.
adoption is very, very expensive.
Hmm.
And that doesn't take away from the people that have adopted, because they feel just as much being a mother when
Absolutely.
they have that child. But
Hmm.
it generally does come about from people who have tried,
Hmm.
and it hasn't worked out. And it's not just the raising of a child that we want to have, because yes, there's plenty of children that need to be adopted and need love, etc., but it's the carrying of a child. As much as
Hmm.
morning sickness is absolutely awful, and when they
Hmm.
start doing the kung fu dancing inside of you and your stomach's going this way and that way, there there is nothing to actually really articulate how a woman feels with this child growing inside of her, right?
Yeah.
I don't think
Hmm.
ever there's been a language that can speak to that, right? So yes, adoption is wonderful. I guarantee you will fall in love with that child, but there is something about the carrying that is
Absolutely.
magical.
Yeah. And when you can't do that, you can then understand how much grief
Yes,
that brings too, you know?
exactly.
And so those women need to be validated as much that like
Yes.
your grief in whether it's loss or infertility, like we need
Yeah.
to acknowledge the struggle these women are having. And I think we're doing a better job of that these
Mm,
days as a society. But there's still a long way we can go in policy in the workplace,
yes.
in giving women grace and space to,
Yes. Yes.
when they're having a loss or they're in infertility, that it's just as much as having the flu. You need time. You need time
Yeah.
to rest and recover. And we have a long way that we could go in the workplace validating a woman's experience in these
Yes.
areas as well.
Yeah.
There's another nonprofit in town who is very passionate and behind changing policy like
Good.
that as well. So there are women doing this work in this space, which is amazing. And we love to be their partners in it, but our center is very client focused. That's our area. And then we support, these other organizations that are getting out there. But like I had said, it's important for us not to be lobbying and doing political
Right.
activism, because that can prevent who we can support.
That's somebody else's arena.
Yeah, and
Your
we love.
arena is the
Exactly.
support of the women that are going through this in the first place.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you ever support the men, like, fathers of the women have lost the baby, for many of them, they may have not physically lost, but they've lost the child, they're just as
Yes.
attached.
Yeah.
Are men included in that way too?
Absolutely. We're there for the whole family. So
Wonderful.
we are working on building a more robust men's ministry within our
Hmm.
organization, where we can provide mentorship, that one-on-one with other men who
Right.
either have similar experiences with loss or are fathers, and can help if we have other fathers who just need that support and encouragement as a dad,
Hmm.
or if they're going through the grief process as well,
Yeah.
that we have men with similar experiences. So that's an area we're really working on building it up, but we currently support the whole family. So
Right.
partners, and even, sometimes we have parents who, it's not uncommon for us to have teens as clients in our center. Obviously,
Hmm.
teen pregnancy is a huge thing.
Yes.
And so that's very common for us. And sometimes the mom of a pregnant teen needs support as much,
Yes.
and so sometimes we just have just the mom or the grandma or
Hmm.
come in and be able to just share their feelings and feel heard. And because they're outside of that, they have to be stoic. They have to be the one to be,
Yes.
you know the rock for this young girl who's going through the scariest thing in her
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So being there for her support system, because they're going to have emotional reactions and they're going to feel certain ways, and they just need to sometimes just share it too. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're there for the whole family.
I think, one of the things is you pointed out, no shame, no blame, leave that at the door. It's not
Hmm.
here. And I think, it goes for people with teen pregnancy who got pregnant. It goes for people who have been raped. It goes for people that have been trying to have a child and not being able to, or another
Hmm.
miscarriage. And there's always this kind of self-blame, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, hindsight, could you make better choices? Oh, everybody could at some point in their life. However you got you're here. It's the here and now that we're addressing, the
Yeah.
here and now and the future. And I think that, for people listening here today, it's, understanding what a woman goes through on whatever is happening, choice, not choice, having to make the hardest choice of their life, going through the most difficult things, um, is nobody needs um, your your um, your judgment or you blaming someone. Uh, it is a question of how do you support during this time period. So whether you know somebody that's going through this, or whether you And let's face it, yeah, I will bring this in, the States. I feel so sorry for the women that are going through things there right now, because there is even a fear of going to the hospital. When I had an ectopic pregnancy, that would have been treated as an abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's like it's gone totally, absolutely ludicrous. And so wherever you are, this organization is here for you if you're going through this. But wherever you are in the world, look for some organization out there that there's your support, because there are so many countries that are still vehemently anti-women who are pregnant or going through things. And it's like they're going through the biggest trauma of their lives, and now you're adding more to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
there was a beautiful movie many years ago called The Red Tent.
Mm,
And it goes back into kind of biblical ages, but the red tent was for women only. That's where women gave birth. That's where women talked to each other about things. That's where women supported each other, and no man was allowed in there. And I
mm,
think what we need is more red tenting
yeah.
going on. Women being that we do not need your condensation, your judgment, your critique, nothing. We need your support. So
Mm-hmm.
you have no idea, the circumstances. And even if you did leave that judgment, it's the now, what they're in now. How do you support them now? And
Mm-hmm.
it's not just supporting the woman who's pregnant now, or whatever she's going through. It's you're also investing, by investing in the mother, you're investing in the child, you're investing in humanity's future.
Mm-hmm.
So don't
Yeah.
start it off with that judgment. For who are you to judge, right? Stones, glass houses, and all of that.
That's
It's
right. Yeah.
be there for each other, please.
Yeah. Well, judgment in my experience just creates division. So,
Yes.
there's no place for that.
No place for that. And it's counteractive. It doesn't support anything. It's I've known people who have struggled to have a kid, gave up, and then suddenly become pregnant,
Mhm,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And
Anything can happen.
anything can happen. Or people that have adopted because they thought they could never have, and then they get pregnant. And then
Mm-hmm.
people like, I didn't think I could get pregnant anymore. Or, I had
Yeah.
a condition and I didn't think I could, and now I am. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like whatever got there, it's the there that we need to address. And what
Yeah.
support do women need through that? So, how do people support your organization?
Well, there's quite a few ways. Physical, practical supplies is in very high demand. That could look like diapers,
Hmm.
wipes, baby clothes, or well, I mean, baby up to about two or three
Yeah.
T sizes. Just your gently used baby clothes when you're done with them. We have at our location in Nanaimo. We have after hour drop boxes. You can really pop by any time and
Hmm.
make a donation. There's certain things we can't give away used, like car seats and any sort of bed, bassinets, and cribs and such. And so, monetary donations are a huge help for us to be able to supply things like that for families who need it. So.
Hmm.
On our website, we have a donate tab if that's something that's within someone's resources to be able to help us financially. That goes a long way for us. And just telling people that we exist, that we're
Mm.
there for women, and we're there to just show grace and love and support. And I'm very aware that not every person who has been to our center has felt like they received the grace they were looking for. We're all humans, and I know we've let people down in the past, but I just want people to know our goal, our mission is to support every person who comes through our doors. And that is our main focus, and going forward, all that we want for our
Right.
center. So I don't want to um, you know, discredit anyone's past experiences,
Hmm.
but just know that who we are and what we are with myself in this organization now is just to show everybody love and grace. And that's our
And
goal.
back to the title of the show, your health is your choice, and that is
Mhm.
the health of you, the health of your baby. Here is an organization that is helping you. All right. And, I've seen this as a coach in the past where people say, well, just fix me. Well, just do it for me. Just do that. You got to understand that putting it on someone else. No, what they're doing is showing you what you can apply to yourself. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're showing you the options that you have. They're supporting you on the choices that you make. Ultimately, you have got to make them. So the onus is on you. Your
Mm-hmm.
health is your choice is your choice, but they're there to support you through that choice,
Yeah.
right? And if you get angry because you don't like those choices, the anger isn't at them. The anger is within yourself, and that is something you need to address because it's not going to help you moving forward.
Mm.
And you know, if you do get pregnant and it's an unwanted pregnancy and you are angry, I understand, right? It's part of the fear, it's part of the unknown. Then maybe you need to seek counseling where you can deal with that because you're there to offer the resources and the support. But if it's like you're at that stage, you need different type of help that's going to really help you get over the anger, get over the fears, and now you can truly see the support and the resources for what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we just want to be a light in our community.
Yeah.
That's our goal. So hopefully that the more people who know we exist can, just recommend us as a resource. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet, our support and what we offer, our services are always free to
Mm,
anyone, always confidential. We're completely funded by the community. So
mm.
all of the donations that come in are what keep um, our our support flowing back into the community.
And you know that the thing is that somebody goes for their second latte of the day. Well, how about that latte? Just, you know, to you, it's nothing, but it all adds up. You know, I call it
Mm,
the Netflix syndrome. You pay an X amount and it's not that lot, but it gives you so much, because the more people paying that, the more that can be given. And I think that's the point. Nobody's asking you to give the arm and leg, even
mhm.
just the latte a month, so to speak,
Yeah,
helps, whatever you've got. And of course, like my daughter is on her third child, not going to have any more. There'll be a lot of baby clothes there,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, and it's paying it forward. That's what
yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah,
And
and they
you've
just
also
go right back into your own community. Like all those
exactly
clothes just directly go back to a family. We're just redistributing them on your behalf.
right. And you've got a volunteer section as well. So, what kind of volunteers are you looking for?
Well, we have currently like a quite a big roster of volunteers who work with our clients, but we're always looking for volunteers who can help in areas like with our events. We do a couple fundraising events here, and people who can support us in that way, or maybe somebody has a vehicle that they can do, clothing pickup and drop offs for us. And
Right.
there's a lot of areas that we could use support. And the best way to start, if you think like you just are interested in being involved in any way, is
Mm,
just reach out through our website and say
mhm.
like, hey, here's some, skills that I have. Is there a way that I can support you with those? But anybody working one-on-one with clients, we do fully train them to do
Right.
so. You're never just left to figure it out.
Right.
We do a pretty extensive training program through our parent organization, which is called Pregnancy Care Canada. And yeah, so that's, I mean, just being there for us, being behind us, and knowing that, our the intent behind what we do, that just means everything to us.
hmm we look at the problem of the world and you go, oh, if, only government would do this, a government would do that. But you've got to understand, we vote people in. But it's, as we're pointing a finger, there's three pointing back at us. What can we do about it? And
Mhm.
every little helps. And, I hear I'm only one person, I can't have an impact. Choose something. Choose
Mhm.
something to support. Choose something to get behind. And
Yeah.
then if you had any pregnancy challenges, if you know anybody has had that, lost, having to make the hard choice, whatever it is, and this is something I relate to, the support. And whether it's here in Nanaimo, beautiful British Columbia, Canada, or whether it's in your local neighborhood,
Mhm.
right? Find people like them out there that are being that support, and let other people that you may come across know about it.
Yeah.
because that's part of the biggest problem is when people do get unwanted pregnancy, or they have a pregnancy and they feel alone, or they're going through some, or they've had a loss. Where do I go? I don't know who to talk to. And so this is where we need to make sure that we talk about it. We let people know about it. Even if you're in a mother's group and say, I came across this group that's doing X, Y, and Z. It's not targeting anyone. But you
Hmm.
never know, oh, I didn't know about that group. I know somebody who's going through something, right?
Yes.
So be willing to talk, be willing to share, be willing to support wherever you are in the world. And I know each
Hmm.
country has its own challenges, but there is always a group somewhere that's there to support. And if you're
Yes.
in Nanaimo, you don't just work with people actually in Nanaimo, kind of further up and down the island.
Yeah, we're basically the whole mid-island area,
Mm,
like central Vancouver Island is our area. And then we also have families that are very remote,
mm,
that, are coming to town for supplies, doctor's appointments, things like that. They use our resources as well.
right.
But there are a couple other pregnancy centers on the island that sort of take care of, the other areas as well. But
Mm,
usually, about Ladysmith through Oceanside area, and then the remote communities north or west of our island that we help as
mm.
well.
Well, I'm so glad that you found this way because it's needed. I wish it was around at the time that I had faced my challenges,
Mm,
um, because you do feel all alone. You feel afraid to talk to people for the fear of that judgment,
yeah,
fear of ridicule, fear of, people pouncing on you, and we do need to support each other as women. We are the
yeah,
nurturers, we are the carriers, we are mostly, the people that are there for the kids through life. And we are seeing a lot more men step up, thank God.
yes.
The co-parenting is happening, which is wonderful.
It
Um,
is.
but we also need to be there for the husbands that are also going through their own struggles and everything else, right? So
Yeah,
you imagine a woman going through a very traumatic pregnancy and delivery, and all he can do is kind of hold her hand and support her. He's feeling, at a thing as well. So let us not
absolutely.
leave them out. Let's bring them in. Let's be inclusive and let's be there for each other. So the
Yes.
site's name is.
So we're cpcnanaimo.com. That's CPC, like Crossroads Pregnancy Center. And on Instagram, we are Crossroads Pregnancy. And then on Facebook, just Crossroads Pregnancy Center. So I love to connect with people through our social media, our website, and just ask us questions if you have questions.
And of course, for people who don't know how to spell Nanaimo, because even I get getting the letters mixed
Mm.
up, it's CPCNANAIMO.com. CPNanaimo.com. And it's in beautiful Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. Maybe, this is something that you would like to even just drop them a line and say, how do I start this in my own neighborhood? Or how do I find it wherever I'm at? Because that's the biggest thing, is that not knowing where you can find the support,
Yeah,
right?
well, absolutely. And I had briefly mentioned there's a national organization called Pregnancy Care Canada, and they are just supporters of centers like ours. And
Mm,
they do provide training. And if somebody wants to start a center in their own community, they'll help you through that process.
wonderful,
So, yeah.
wonderful. Everything is about support. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care whether we're talking at the beginning of life, end of life, and everything in between. We
Mm-hmm.
need to be there as a community and supporting each other through whatever we go through. That is what makes a community strong. That's what makes it thrive. And we've got to understand, it's like, just because you're not having a kid, or you have had your kids, or you don't want kids, that you can't get out there and support people that are having the kids.
Yeah.
Because if we don't support each other, no matter what we're going through, then we're going to have a broken society. We see that, we want to heal that. Let's start it at the very beginning. Let's give the
Yes.
mother and child a good start in life, and that good start will then carry on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's give it to them
Absolutely.
right up front.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for choosing this line of work, because it's so necessary.
Thank you.
And this organization, absolutely necessary. My mottos of my shows are listen, learn, and apply. And I know that there's something you've listened to today and that you've learned that you can apply, even if it's just talking about it with the people you know. And see, I know that may not be us, but did you know this was this organization? And let's start sharing it. Let's start sharing it across nationally. Or if you are in another country and you think this is a great idea and it's not there, then how do you get it going there and support the women?
Mm-hmm.
Support the mums, the dads, the families, support the children. We will have a society that has better balance and able to make better choices. And that's what it's about. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you so much, Kimberly, for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sarah.
My pleasure. Folks, I always ask about you sharing the podcast, have a podcast party, cup of tea, cup of coffee, glass of wine, and share afterwards. Please get this podcast around, especially to mothers groups, especially to people you know that support other organizations, to support mums in whatever way. But please get this out because it's information that's needed to be known. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.